South Africa recently lost its top spot as Africa's biggest economy to Nigeria. That's after Nigeria changed how it calculated gross domestic product, which is a move advised by the World Bank. South Africa, Nigeria, and Egypt account for half of Africa's GDP, that is the value of all goods and services produced. South Africa is one of 4 African countries ranked as an upper middle class economy by the World Bank, and growth there has surged after the white majority rule and apartheid ended in 1994. International sanctions were then lifted, and the country's growth tripled, but high unemployment, weaker exports, and corruptions and labor strikes have all been big challenges to that growth. As South Africans look to the polls Wednesday in what many are calling the born-free elections, born-free refers to the voters who were born after apartheid was dismantled, it will be the first time to vote for that generation since the end of the policy. It's also the first election since the death of former South African President Nelson Mandela. I spoke to Guy Henderson about what's next for the country and the economy.
Well, the first thing to say about that, of course, is that the incoming government, we know almost for certain, will be the incumbent, the ruling African National Congress. They've won every election since 1994, and they're expected to win this one comfortably as well. The plan, economic plan at the centre of their election campaign, and sometime before that as well, is what they've called the National Development Plan. And it is a very comprehensive plan to try and fix what are some of the highest levels of inequality, very high levels of poverty and unemployment as well. What then becomes important is the margin by which the ANC will win the vote in order to implement that economic policy, because Jacob Zuma's very much behind this plan, but not everyone within the ruling alliance is. It's proved divisive enough so that if he drops below the 60% mark, that might start to cause divisions within the ruling party and therefore its ability to try and implement that plan.
The economy certainly will be a very big topic as well. What's the growth outlook for South Africa, and perhaps you can give us some light on what the biggest challenges might be?
Well, the growth outlook at this stage does remain reasonably modest. In terms of the biggest challenge, certainly unemployment here is a perennial crisis. If you look at, if you count the number of people who have given up looking for work in South Africa, the broader unemployment rate stands at 34%, which is far too high for many voters here who are extremely frustrated about that. One of the big achievements, though, of this ANC government has been building what it has sold as a viable welfare state. But one of the big problems it's now facing is the fact that because there is sluggish economic growth here, the way that they have managed to sustain that state is by building social grants. Millions of people across South Africa now are on social grants as one of the, if not the biggest contributor to income growth in the country.
Guy, I want to ask you about this news report about Nigeria becoming a bigger economy than South Africa, a little friendly competition. What's the reaction down there?
Well, there has always been this rivalry. Nigeria was always number 2, and I think everyone here knew that that time was coming where Nigeria would overtake. However, I don't think people are too concerned about it. Certainly it is a sign that South Africa's economy is perhaps not growing as fast as it should. But the government says that it has a plan to fix that. As I mentioned, the NDP, it knows that to sustain and be able to absorb newcomers into the job market, it's going to have to substantially increase its economic growth. Its target is 5%, but it is going to have to solve some big problems, some big structural problems in the South African economy, high levels of unemployment, a weakening rand, and of course, perennial labour issues, a strike in the mining sector at the moment, a crippling strike that's now into its 15th week.